Welcome back. Now, as promised, the news in detail. Let's begin with our top story. The U.S. has told India to fulfill promises to better the lives of people in occupied Kashmir. The White House says the crisis in the valley was discussed at length yesterday by President Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. According to a White House statement, Trump told Modi to improve India's relations with Pakistan. The American president said the world is counting on Pakistan and India to resolve tensions. Meeting with Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan on Monday, Trump reiterated his offer of mediation on the Kashmir issue. The U.S. president said there is always a solution to disputes. Prime Minister Khan has said the U.S. can use its influence to end the humanitarian crisis in Indian-occupied Kashmir. In India, Ghulam Nabi Azad, the leader of the opposition of the upper house of parliament, says the situation in occupied Kashmir is terrible. Azad says his recent tour of Kashmir was severely curbed by Indian occupation authorities. This report has more.
Since illegally annexing occupied Kashmir on August 5th, India's government has turned the valley into a fortress. Even opposition leaders of the world's so-called largest democracy have not been allowed to visit. Senior Congress party politician Ghulam Nabi Azad had to petition the Supreme Court to gain access to his own homeland. Speaking in Jammu after a 6-day tour, Azad said occupied Kashmir is under a crushing lockdown. Despite the Supreme Court's ruling, occupation authorities prevented him from visiting most of the valley.
I was not even allowed by the administration to visit 10% of the places where I had planned to go in the valley during my stay there. There is no sign of freedom of speech in Jammu and Kashmir.
Congress leader Azad criticized the arrests of Kashmiri politicians and New Delhi's ban on political activities in the valley. Congress leader Azad said he will soon submit a report on the situation in occupied Kashmir to the Indian Supreme Court. The New Delhi imposed curfew and communications blackout in the occupied Kashmir is now in its 52nd consecutive day.
Well, calling the lockdown in Indian-occupied Kashmir an open jail, Prime Minister Imran Khan says the world has failed to uphold the rights of Kashmiris. Prime Minister Khan was addressing a press conference on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly session that is currently underway in New York. This report has the details.
Prime Minister Imran Khan highlighted the mass arrests of Kashmiris and their relocation to the secret jails elsewhere. He spoke of hospitals not working, the crushing curfew, and his concerns that a massacre could take place if the curfew is lifted.
Just to remind the world that there are 11 Security Council, UN Security Council resolutions that recognize Kashmir as a disputed territory, and which gave the right to people of Kashmir the right of self-determination through a plebiscite to decide their destiny. That right has been given to the people of Kashmir for 70 years.
Khan added, India today is governed by a racist Hindu supremacist party influenced by the RSS ideology, which is pursuing state terrorism. He added, this can sow the seeds of radicalization and instability in the region. The Prime Minister said the world needs to address the Kashmir issue.
I'm alarmed, and I think the world leaders need to know. I've spoken to the world leaders. I've spoken to President Trump. I've spoken to Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister. On telephone, I've spoken to Angela Merkel, to President Macron of France. I've spoken to the Muslim leaders. And this is the time for the world to act before this goes too far.
Meanwhile, PM Khan hosted a dinner for a delegation of OIC contact group on Kashmir at New York. He said after the UN session, he will take the issue to the OIC summit.
Well, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has briefed the leaders of Egypt, New Zealand and Ethiopia on the deteriorating situation in occupied Kashmir. During the meetings on the sidelines of the 74th UNGA session in New York, PM Khan said the UN must play its role to resolve the Kashmir issue. Meeting New Zealand's Premier Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister Khan said a big crisis will be evident once the curfew in occupied Kashmir is lifted. The two leaders also discussed the challenges posed by rising Islamophobia. Prime Minister Khan apprised Egypt's President Fattah al-Sisi on the ongoing human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. Prime Minister Khan also met the Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde. Well, Pakistan has asked the UN Security Council to act urgently and decisively after India illegally annexed occupied Kashmir status. In a letter to President Vasily Nebenzia, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said India's actions in occupied Kashmir have jeopardized regional peace and stability. Qureshi said Pakistan is committed to pursuing peaceful avenues to address the growing crisis. But Indian occupation forces are escalating tensions at the line of control to divert international attention away from its atrocities in the valley. Qureshi said the people of Indian-occupied Kashmir await the free and impartial plebiscite conducted under the auspices of the UN. He said India agreed to hold the plebiscite under Security Council resolutions 70 years ago. Also at the United Nations General Assembly, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said stability and prosperity in South Asia can't be separated from the Kashmir issue. He said 8 million people are besieged in occupied Kashmir after India stripped the region of its autonomy and imposed a curfew. The president said the international community has failed to devote enough attention to the Kashmir issue. He went on to say that Kashmiris have been awaiting the resolution of the dispute for the last 72 years. Erdogan also spoke about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He criticized the U.S. recognition of Israel's annexation of the Syrian Golan Heights. He accused the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration of wanting to destroy Palestinian statehood. Well, the UN's Secretary General Antonio Guterres has stressed the need for dialogue to diffuse heightened tensions in South Asia. In his speech to the UN General Assembly, he said the violation of Security Council resolutions makes peace processes difficult. The UN chief said unilateral actions threaten a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. He said the recent attack on Saudi oil facilities is unacceptable. He hoped to preserve progress on nuclear non-proliferation through the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action with Iran. The UN chief also spoke about inequality and climate change. Pakistan says it is working to diffuse tensions in the Gulf at the request of the United States and Saudi Arabia. Prime Minister Imran Khan says he has discussed possibilities with Iran's President Hassan Rouhani. The two leaders met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Speaking to media at the UN, Khan said it is too early to say anything conclusive about the success of his talks.
President Trump asked me that if we could de-escalate the situation and maybe come up with another deal. So I did convey this, and yes, we are trying our best. It's an ongoing thing, so I can't reveal more than that.
Now, talking to reporters, U.S. President Trump confirmed he had asked Pakistan's Prime Minister Khan to act as a mediator with Iran. Trump said he has a very good relationship with Pakistan's Prime Minister. Meanwhile, France says conditions are now ripe for a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Iran's President Hassan Rouhani. President Emmanuel Macron says it is now up to them to make it happen. Macron says he worked on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly to arrange a face-to-face meeting between Trump and Rouhani. Speaking to reporters in New York, Macron said he will continue efforts to salvage the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
France is ready to help, and I consider that this discussion must begin between the United States and Iran, and it must be able to involve all the signatories of the JCPOA nuclear accord and the regional powers.
Well, the French President Macron has spearheaded recent European diplomatic efforts to reduce tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Well, the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani himself says he is open to discussing small changes to the 2015 nuclear deal. Speaking to reporters in New York, Rouhani said Iran will discuss the deal with the 6 major powers if sanctions are lifted. U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew from the deal last year and adopted a policy of exerting economic pressure on Iran. In his speech to the UN General Assembly, Trump said sanctions would not be lifted if Iran maintains its current behavior. In other news, U.S. House Democrats have launched a formal impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the president violated his oath by asking Ukraine's help to smear Democratic rival Joe Biden ahead of next year's elections. Pelosi says President Trump must be held accountable for violating national security and the integrity of U.S. elections. Trump quickly fired off 4 tweets in response, calling the inquiry another Democratic witch hunt. On Monday, Biden admitted that as vice president, he had pressured Ukraine into sacking its top prosecutor for investigating his son. Well, the UN body responsible for cooperation among postal services has held talks to persuade the U.S. not to quit it. U.S. President Donald Trump wants to hike the fees Washington charges to deliver foreign mail. The U.S. has threatened to quit the UN Postal Union unless it agrees to let countries charge more to deliver mail from abroad. Washington set a 12-month deadline to resolve the issue last October. The U.S. delegation said it is willing to accept a 2-phased option. We'll be back with plenty more news after this break. Stay tuned. Let's begin this segment of the Bulletin in the UK, where Prime Minister Boris Johnson will face Parliament today after its suspension was ruled unlawful by the Supreme Court. Following that ruling, Johnson is returning early from the UN General Assembly in New York. Prime Minister Johnson said he profoundly disagreed with the Supreme Court's decision, but will respect it. There are growing calls for Johnson to resign because he unlawfully advised the Queen to prorogue Parliament. The opposition Labour Party has cut short its annual conference to attend Parliament. House of Commons Speaker John Bercow has promised there will be full scope for questions and ministerial statements. 7 people have been killed and 46 others have been injured by an oil tanker explosion in Mali. The accident occurred after the tanker's driver lost control and the vehicle rolled over on a highway in the capital Bamako. Officials say the tanker was carrying 14,000 liters of fuel at the time. The 46 people injured in the accident are being treated at local hospitals. The Civil Defense Ministry says an inquiry into the crash is underway. Well, here in Pakistan, at least 30 people died and over 450 were injured after an earthquake shook several parts of the country. The 5.8 magnitude quake was 10 kilometers deep, with its epicenter near Azad Kashmir's Mirpur city. Powerful tremors were felt in several parts of Pakistan, including Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Islamabad. Pakistan's military has begun rescue operations. There are reports the death toll may rise. Well, amidst heightened tensions due to the Kashmir crisis, Pakistan is all set to open the doors of the Kartarpur corridor. The peace initiative by Islamabad will facilitate Sikh pilgrims from India to attend religious events at holy sites in Pakistan. Our correspondent Sumaira Khan reports now from Kartarpur.
Thousands of pilgrims travel every year from India to the shrine of the founder of Sikhism in Pakistan. They cross over at the Wagha-Attari border between the two countries, which is miles away from the mausoleum. To cut the journey short for the Sikh pilgrims, Islamabad took the initiative of constructing the Kartarpur corridor. The project includes a 4.5 kilometers road, an 800 meters long bridge, and 76 immigration counters.
ये जो बाबा जी गुरुद्वारा साहब है इसको हमने बहुत elaborate.
We have covered up this area from 4 to 408 acres and then 2 terminals. However, after the inauguration, we have thought of increasing its accommodation in phase 2.
Phase 2 में
The project's entire infrastructure was painstakingly discussed with Sikh notables prior to the execution. The corridor is being developed and funded exclusively by Government of Pakistan. Islamabad plans to expand the capacity of the Gurdwara to host 10,000 pilgrims on a daily basis.
In Sikhism, serving humanity has a great reward. You cannot serve others through money only. It can be done in any way possible, like the one being done by Pakistan and the team working on the project.
Kartarpur was formally inaugurated on November 28, 2018 by Prime Minister Imran Khan. After Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa officially offered to visiting Indian politician and former cricketer Navjot Singh Sidhu, international community termed it a gigantic step by Pakistan towards peace building. But unfortunately, India till now has been adopting delaying tactics to halt the project. Reporting for Indus News, Sumaira Khan, Gurdwara Kartar Sahib, Pakistan.
Well, in India, coastal megacities like Mumbai face a catastrophic risk of climate-driven flooding. The shanty dwellers of its coastal area fear for their homes and lives. This report has more.
During the monsoon, rainstorms regularly flood the slums of Mumbai, Asia's biggest, leaving hundreds of people vulnerable. For densely populated cities like Mumbai, such disasters are a threat to personal incomes as well as national economies.
If water levels rise, I don't think any part of Mumbai will be safe. Mumbai is an island and there is only one way out, and even tall buildings won't be safe. It's dangerous and worrying for our children's future and leaves every family living here at God's mercy.
Forestry officer D.R. Patel wades through knee-deep water to plant mangroves and trees, the only protection they have at the moment.
If you lose mangroves, there will be major flooding as water ingress will happen as sea level rises and water seeps into the city, causing human casualties and flooding.
Critics say India's largest metropolis is not doing enough to hold back the waves. The Maharashtra Maritime Board says coastal management plans have been initiated in the region but will take time.
We have to go for a stepwise approach, but because our challenges are also multi-faced resources, and with population the demand on the resources is more. So therefore our solutions also have to be, there is always a cost benefit analysis when you implement a particular solution.
UN studies show sea at Mumbai could rise by 1 meter in the next century because of the global warming. If the prediction comes true, one academic report suggests a quarter of Mumbai could be affected.
Well, many animal species are endangered or are facing extinction because of human activity, but others are thriving because of our impact on this planet, including jellyfish. Scientists are calling this phenomenon the jellification of the world's oceans. This report now has details on how the jellyfish population is rising globally.
Jellyfish have been on this planet for far longer than we have. It's believed they have roamed the Earth's oceans for around 600 million years. And now they're even more at home thanks to climate change, plastic waste and overfishing.
Jellyfish reproduce when major changes in temperature occur. That's what stimulates their reproduction. So climate change causing an increase in ocean temperatures will help jellyfish reproduction, so they'll reproduce more and more.
Like several other marine species, jellyfish also feed on plankton, and as such their rising population could negatively impact the ocean's ecosystems.
We will also see more and more of them because they will have fewer and fewer predators, again because of climate change, but also because of overfishing. Turtles will disappear, tuna fish, all of which are natural predators of jellyfish.
Apart from climate change and fishing, jellyfish are also helped by plastic waste. Even a few centimeters of plastic trash can serve as a breeding colony for the jellyfish species. This could have tragic consequences, as stings from several jellyfish species can be lethal.
Stock markets in Asia have dipped in reaction to the launch of impeachment proceedings against U.S. President Donald Trump. Investors have also been unsettled by Trump's criticism of China's economic policies in his address to the UN General Assembly. In the meantime, international oil futures are trading lower for a second successive day. Tracking overnight losses on Wall Street, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index has lost 1%. The Shanghai Composite is also down 0.5%, while Tokyo's Nikkei 225 index has lost a third. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. And with that, you're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here on Indus News.